I remember how confused I was the first time I had to deal with Halfling rogues in 5e, and the naturally stealthy and cunning action combo controversy. If you're unfamiliar with the discussion, consider yourself lucky. Here's how it goes. The Halfling's naturally stealthy trait lets them hide behind medium creatures, even in plain daylight. The cunning action rogue trait allows a free hide attempt as a bonus action. So, my Halfling rogue moves behind a party member and takes the hide action and succeeds in a stealth check. That grants disadvantage to anyone who tries a ranged attack against me, as long as I'm not in their line of sight. I should also get a +2 AC bonus for the half cover. After all, I'm behind another creature. On my next turn, as long as I am still hidden, I can make a ranged attack with advantage. But my target gets a +2 AC bonus for half cover, as my party member is still between me and my target. My attack gives my location away, so I try to hide again using my bonus action, and repeat that every single turn of every combat. Does it sound repetitive? Because it is. Does it sound confusing? Yes, it is. How confusing? I guess I would give it an unbearably frustrating nightmare confusion score. So much so that a quick search in the internet will bring you numerous different interpretations for that combo. One D&D ends with this clumsy design once and for all. Naturally Stealthy now simply provides proficiency in stealth. Phew! Much simpler and much functional. That's the good news. The bad news is, not much else was changed in Halflings. Better known as hobbits, Halflings are central in the Lord of the Rings, D&D's original inspiration. They have been around since the game's early editions, when they were forced to change names due to a legal dispute. Despite that, they're the least popular core race, and there's a reason for that. They're the weakest 5e race. Much to my disappointment, despite their unattractive design, Halflings saw little change in One D&D so far. The Halfling's base speed was increased to 30 feet, which I think is great and provides a small buff. Their 3 core race traits, Brave, Halfling Nimbleness, and Luck, had their wording clarified, but kept their effects identical. Finally, the aforementioned naturally stealthy trait was nerfed, simplified, and promoted to a core Halfling trait. Formerly, the 2 Halfling sub-races, Lightfoot and Stout, had different race traits. That was suppressed, which makes sense for some reasons. First, they only had 2 different traits each, and one of them was an ability score improvement. They are no longer associated with race. Then, the Stout Resilience trait was identical to the Dwarven Resilience trait, which made it unoriginal at best. Finally, while that was not explicit in the player's handbook, those 2 Halfling subraces have different skin tones in some campaign settings, and D&D is trying to move away from real-world race associations, even though they keep screwing that up. As you can see, those changes didn't provide a buff to Halflings, and they're still way below par. Let's make a direct comparison with the new orc design. We could say that the Halfling's Luck and Brave traits are compared to the orc's Relentless Endurance and Powerful Build traits. The first of each among the coolest traits available, and the remaining 2 with the most specific and marginal applications. Then, Halflings have the stealth proficiency versus the orc's dark vision. I would totally argue that dark vision is better because it is less class specific. Stealth proficiency is quite useless for fighters or paladins, and dark vision is useful for all classes. Finally, orcs have the Adrenaline Rush trait, which is much better than the Halfling Nimbleness trait. I think that such comparison helps to make clear how underwhelming the Halfling's design still is. Halflings are in dire need of a power buff in future D&D iterations. If I were to review their design, I would add both the skilled and resourceful traits, as I think they're a great match both in gameplay and in flavor. Concerning flavor, if the original Hobbit trope is to be kept, Halflings have, quote, family and community helping shape their lives. And at the same time that many of them are provided with a, quote again, brave and adventurous spirit. I think those traits are a good match to that description. In terms of gameplay, the skill trait that simply provides proficiency in one additional skill of the player's choice is a good balance for those classes that would not benefit as much as others from the naturally stealthy trait. The resourceful trait provides inspiration after a long rest, which is a great complement to the luck trait. Halflings were my big disappointment in this first One D&D iteration. Of course, doing away with clumsy game mechanics is great, but in my viewpoint, Halflings are so below other races' power level in the player's handbook that I was quite surprised with the small changes they went through. I bet that the community feedback in the survey will be similar to mine, and I would expect a bolder design in future One D&D publications.